you that we were going to have something for you coming up this next week, and we do. My name's Dave. I'm the one up here in the corner you're seeing, and then that there is Steve Edwards, and we're here to talk mules and donkeys, hang out with you for a little bit, spend some time answering whatever questions you got. Make sure that you get everything that you need to build that relationship with that animal so that you can get the most out of it, get every last drop of goodness that the good Lord put inside of it, and that you have enjoy the fruit of creation here. But before we get into that, Steve, why don't you tell us what we are looking at here?
Here we are. This is the Cowboy Saddle, but I'm going to kind of do something different, Dave. The Cowboy was my original one that we started with 25, 30, I don't know, a couple thousand years ago. But this was kind of some things that I had done to my original Cowboy, and I put a rawhide cantle strap in the back here. And the idea of the rawhide is so when you rope something and you're dragging it, it doesn't cut through leather. Rawhide's a lot tougher. And then I did rawhide on the tip of my horn here so that when I dally, it doesn't rub and rub. When you dally with a rope and you have a 600-pound calf on the end of it, you can cut some holes in the hide really quick. So that's why I put the rawhide on there. And then I put bullhide on the horn itself so that when I dally, it'll bite into it. So I haven't used this. I said bullhide. It's actually mule hide. And then I did something different. I put barbed wire trim all the way around on the outside and on the fenders, barbed wire trim. And I'm looking forward to riding this saddle. Now, here's the other thing that I did different. Is I put a wood tree underneath this. We fiberglassed it, and then we sprayed on top of that ultra hide. And ultra hide is the same stuff that you put on spraying bed liners of trucks and this sort of thing. But that's my newest saddle. I thought I'd share it with folks. And here's what I want to do, Dave.
Yeah, tell me.
I'm going to put it on the website, and I want you all to help me name it. It's the Cowboy. But what are we going to call it? Cowboy Eternity, Cowboy what? You know,
Limited,
but I'd like to have another name with it. Cowboy what?
Rawhide, the premium, the giddy up. Folks, let's get some names going here so we could start maybe suggesting a few for folks to take a look at. And maybe we'll run a few versions here. So maybe we'll take some of the ones that we get suggested here today. We'll put those up on Facebook, put those up on the website, let folks kind of add to those, vote for which ones they like. Then maybe we'll narrow it down a little more. And then next week or so, have a final competition of names to choose for this new saddle. What's the thing you're most excited about with this one, Steve? Of course, you just mentioned several things, but what's the thing that you're most excited about for this saddle?
I haven't changed this Cowboy in 25 years. Pretty easy. So I'm thinking about just doing like maybe a limited edition or doing so many of them. I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen. But it's everything that we designed back when I first started trying to figure out what to do, including a wood tree. Now, before, as you all know, I have the trees that are just tough as all get out, and that are the plastic trees with the encapsulated horn. But I just thought, Dave, I want to have a saddle made, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. So that's kind of the saddle. There it is right there. It's the Cowboy, so but it's kind of a fancy Cowboy with barbed wire trim, rawhide, cantle, and pommel. Yeah, pretty nice.
I like that. All right. So we've got our first suggestion here. I think you might like this one. So David Hoffman says, call it Festus.
You know what? That's not a bad idea. That's a compliment, by golly, with old Festus riding his mule in.
That's pretty good there, huh?
Jess just agreed. Jess just had hear that? What do you think, Jess? Here. What do you think? Okay. Yeah, you like it? Okay. All right. That's good. Okay. Jess, that'll do. He was really excited about that. So I don't know. Cowboy Festus. Festus Cowboy. We'll have to consider that one, Dave.
That's pretty good there. That's very, very good there. Well, folks, we're excited to share that with you, but at the same time, that's not the only reason why we're here today. We're here to answer your questions. We've got several good questions already in the queue that folks have been wanting to know throughout the week. So we've set those to the side, and we'll get to them. But what we want first and foremost is we want you to go ahead and let us know that you're watching, and where in the world are you watching from?
Yeah.
We've got David watching. David, where are you coming to us from? Go ahead, and that's the first thing that we ask, is that you just share your name. Let us know that you're here. Let us know that you're watching and where you are watching from. Now, of course, I'm out here in Chandler, Arizona. Steve is in Queen Valley, Arizona. It's about, about an hour and 15 minutes away from the airport. They're downtown, just outside of downtown Phoenix. So that's where Steve's at. I'm in Chandler. It's in the East Valley. We're supposed to have monsoons, and they are nowhere to be found. It sprinkled a little bit the other night, but golly, we need some of the rain that y'all are getting in other parts of the country. So go ahead, send it this way. Steve, you were just fighting a fire.
Yes, yesterday at 3 o'clock, I got a tone out on my phone, and we get these tone outs, tells us where it is. I could see the smoke right over there. It was a mile away. Now, that's scary.
Yeah.
You see big plumes of smoke. And what had happened was there's big power lines run over there, and one of the arms off the power line broke, and that cotton picking wires hit the ground and sparks hit. One of the guys over at the water department said he could hear zzz,
no,
zzz.
Man.
And the next thing I know, 3 o'clock, we got a tone out, and it said fire, no structures. And I kind of thought, I really was waiting for a buddy of mine. He was going to come anyway. Long story short, I walked out the door, and I looked across, and I seen all that smoke. I put my gear on, I headed that way. We fought that sucker from 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and finally about 9 o'clock and 9:15 last night, after we got our gear cleaned up and everything back to order, got back home. It was a long, hot day, and we had the state fire come in with two truckloads of firefighters. Superior came with their their brush truck, and
all hands on deck.
Came. Oh yeah, hey, and we beat that fire. It only got 19 acres.
There you go.
Yeah, don't mess with Queen Valley.
Don't. Steve Edwards, come and get you.
Queen Valley and all the other volunteers. The battalion commander was there. The chief was there. I mean, you're talking, it's a mile away from my house.
Yeah.
And my neighbors, it was a half a mile away. Yeah. We had to do something with that fire.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you did. We're glad that you're safe. We're glad that everybody else is safe. And we're glad that we're able to come here and hang out today. We've got Scott from Florida hanging out with us. David's watching from Clark, Wyoming. We've got Nadine from New Hampshire. We've got David Pengelly. He's got a question for us. We'll get to that, David.
Don't mess with David.
Tell, demand. No, we'll let him fend for himself. He's had enough help. He should know about it. David, you should come and do the broadcast here. No,
that's right.
Of course, we'll get to you, David. We've got Jack, Cowboy Heritage Saddle, Jack says. From Johannesburg, Michigan. Just stopped raining here. Send it over here, Jack. We'll take it. Let's see. David, a Cowboy Down Under. Make it an international saddle. Love the Cowboy. That's David Scholl. We've got Mary from Michigan. We've got Ann from Texas with 92-degree heat. The heat index is 107 degrees. I would not want that here. We got the dry heat here, although it's a little bit more humid here. It's still hot. We're still sweating.
It's 104 outside right now.
We got Mark Miller, says, still in New Mexico, headed home today. So we've got a great crew over here on YouTube. We got some folks watching on YouTube as well. We've got Albert from Arkansas. We've got Ruby. This is Paul. So Paul is on Ruby's account, listening from Georgetown, Kentucky. I guess I'm on my wife's account. We just got 2 mammoths, 2 jennies. That's awesome. We've got, let's see, Jar Gibbs. Steve always says the angle of the front hoof should be the same as the shoulder. What angle should the hind hooves be? So we'll get to those questions there. So, folks, thank you for letting us know that you're watching. It's always good to know that we're not alone. And Steve and I, we like each other. We get enough time on the phone with one another. This time is really for you. We come together, hang out, and we answer any and every question that you've got. So make sure you let us know that you're watching, where you're watching from. go ahead and start listing all the questions that you've got, because this show thrives on your questions. Last week, we almost ran out of questions, and if it weren't for you, we would have cut the show off early. So thank you for those questions. Keep sending them in. And then the third thing, and this is really the best way you can show your appreciation. Of course, Steve, you get messages all day long. I get messages all week long saying, hey, really enjoy the show that you guys do every Wednesday. We look forward to it. It's appointment viewing. Well, folks, the number one way you can show your appreciation is by letting other people know. You know more people than we do. You have a greater reach than we do. Altogether, you can put this show in front of the people who really, really need it, and that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it to boost the ego or just to give ourselves something to do. We're really doing it because, as Steve says, I want to help you. I want to make sure that you get everything that you need so you can get out there, stay safe, and be the herd leader and have good communication with your animals. So share the broadcast. If you're on Facebook, click the share button below. If you're on YouTube, send the link out to friends and family or share it over on Facebook as well. With that, let's get going. Let's see. Let's start with Jar Gibbs' question over on YouTube. Steve, you always say the angle of the front hoof should be the same as the slope of the shoulder. What angle should the hind hooves be compared to width?
Well, width okay, let's just talk angle first.
Yeah.
Okay, now I prefer, this is me, I prefer the same angle as the shoulder, all right? And here's the deal with the mules, and your donkeys too, is they literally don't have much of a heel on that back foot. They don't. And when you take and try to put a quote at a certain angle, like I used to say, okay, it's going to be a 63 or a 72, something like that. No. When I started doing the slope of the shoulder, that started making sense. The bones are already there. They're already shaped the way they're going to be. So what we want to do is stride. We want the mule to stride. We want him to be able to walk correctly. Now, if he gets to where the back foot overreaches the front foot and maybe knocks back here on the heels, puts some marks on it, or maybe even drops a shoe, then you need to change the angle a little bit. But watch his stride, and this is important, folks. Your shoers, and you should also know, when you have somebody walk the mule away from you, turn around and walk back to you, and then walk around in a circle right and left, watch the stride. You can even see it in the dirt. Watch the stride. When you see that stride, then shoe them and see what it does with the stride. Because you got to remember, there's just a very few ounces of steel there that's going to change the stride. But the big thing is, folks, nothing's set in concrete when it comes down to XYZ measurements. The big thing is, go by the slope of the shoulder, make sure you've got a heel, and leave that frog alone. Don't be hacking on it. You don't need it. Very little work on the inside of the sole, except for right around the white line. And I know there's a lot to that. And we literally can have a whole show just on trimming and shaping and this sort of thing. But just in general, start with this. Slope of the shoulder, front and rear feet, try to get a heel, and try to get the contraction out. You'll be set.
So what I'll do is, you say we literally could have a whole show. We've actually got an entire DVD all about trimming the hooves and shaping and things like that. So I will put a link in the comment section to that DVD. It's called Basics of Shoeing Your Mule and Donkey. And I believe in the video it's a donkey, but everything you see is applicable to the mule. That's correct, right?
Well, no, actually, the mule in there is actually Stacy is one of the mules.
Oh, is it really? Okay, I was mistaken then. But but it's the same mule, donkey, mule shoeing techniques and stuff.
The biggest problem with the donkeys is because their foot is so unique, the farriers do not take enough off. They leave too much of a long of a foot. You don't want to do that on those donkeys because all that mud and manure and urine packs up in there, and you can end up getting thrush and some other awful diseases. Trim them donkeys short, where that frog can hit the ground. When that frog hits the ground, folks, then you're going to get blood pumping up and down that leg. If that frog is not hitting the ground, trim it so that you get it hit the ground. And look, the other thing is true. This is really important. If you don't have a healthy frog, you don't have a good leg. So if you trim that correctly and it's short enough to where the frog is continually hitting that ground, it's going to get nice and heavy and fluffy and look very good. It has to hit the ground, folks, and not just with a bunch of mud in it.
All right. So next question. This was actually David's question, and he was talking about the saddle back there. The working title, the Festus saddle. David says, how strong is the tree to light rope with? And how about lightening it up with a little cordura fenders? He likes that cordura there.
Yeah, I got to say, it's been a while since I've even been in my original Cowboy, but we changed these fenders. We changed them tremendously. And like I said, folks, we're going to have a little video out there, and it's going to be on the website, and you all can look at it and look at different pictures and see what you think. But I changed the fender pretty drastically, and so it's going to make a difference. And so as far as how strong it's going to be, I'm going to find out, folks, because I'm going to be dragging calves to the fire, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff with this thing. Now, we have some other saddles, Dave, that are wood, and that's the Rancher and the Packer, and that's more for the traditionalist. Okay, the polypropylene tree is an awesome tree. I love it. I've beat it to death, and so I'll be interested to see how this does. But the way I've designed this horn setting on here, and with the fiberglass into place, and then the ultra hide on it, I'm thinking it's going to be really tough.
That's awesome. Well, and what folks, I think, a lot of folks do understand, just because, they've done their research, but it's not hey, let's just make a new saddle. There's a lot that goes into this. This is something that you've been working on for a long time. Matter of fact, you go to Steve's YouTube channel, you're going to see him working with the tree that's underneath this saddle right here, that this saddle is based on. And how many molds of that? You had to do several molds of that tree to make sure that it was going to fit correct, and it was just a lot of work. So you're not seeing something that we just like, hey, you know what, let's do something new. It's a hey, let's create something great, and let's make sure it does for the mule what the mule needs. And that's the big difference right there. It's not just saying mule saddle. It's not just saying let's put something together. It's no, what is the mule telling us? What is the donkey showing us? And let's create something that fits great for them. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get the reviews on it, hear what you have to say after using it, and finally getting it out to folks as you kind of say, you know what, this is what it needs to be. Let's see here. So David's watching. We've got Mary in Michigan. Anna, we've got Mark Miller. David Hoffman says, I have a 14-hand 3-year-old and Molly bullies a 16-2. So you got a 16-2 Molly that is bullying this 14-hand 3-year-old. Steve, what do we have to say about bullying one mule to the next?
Is this David Pingali?
David Hoffman.
Oh, David Hoffman. Okay, here's the deal, folks. We call it bullying. You know what the mules and horses and equine call it? Herd leader. There's always going to be a herd leader. And we don't want to hear this. Oh, don't hurt Fluffy. Listen, in the equine world, there is the top of the pecking order, and they will bite, they will kick. I've literally seen 2 stallions that were out in the wild literally almost kill each other. And I've also seen 2 donkeys, jack donkeys, actually one kill the other. Folks, we got to remember, this is the equine world. You're there. They create pain. Oh, God, did I say that word, pain? It's part of that world. So, folks, don't put your animals together with each other. I can't tell you how many people have contacted me because the one horse, the one mule did so-and-so to so-and-so, and now they're crippled. Put them in separate pens. Don't just turn them out there, because this is one of the problems. That bigger one is trying to be the top of the pecking order of the smaller one. And I've seen, hey, get this, Dave.
Yeah.
I've seen these little bitty ponies actually be the boss of the whole herd because they're so vicious. And these little guys can't weigh 500 pounds at the most, you know. So separate them, folks. Separate them to be able to feed them correctly so that you can keep an eye on their feed. Separate them so that you can watch how much water they drink. Separate them so you can take care of each individual mule, and you'll keep them from tearing up each other.
Aren't they going to be lonely, though? Isn't that going to make them lonely?
No, it ain't going to make them lonely. They'll find a way to be around each other. They can smell each other. You come to my place, Dave, and I've got 10 stalls on each side, and there ain't but a piece of 1-inch pipe in between them, and they will stand next to each other. They'll stand away from each other. But the big problem is when they're out in the pasture, that's the best time for them to get themselves bit and kicked, especially if they're a new animal. That herd leader is going to come over there and he's going to pound on them to say, hey, I'm the boss. This is the way it's going to be. That's what they do. You know,
what I hear you saying is you're not going to be able to stop or correct the behavior, but you can avoid the behavior by separating them.
Absolutely. Avoid the behavior by separating them. You know, I know it's easier, you know, and like at the Grand Canyon, you know, they turn all these animals loose in different places. Everybody turns them loose. But we've also seen the end result, folks. The end result of mules being kicked to where now they're crippled, horses biting other mules. We've seen some pretty tough stuff, and that ain't no good. And what they usually do is put them in a separate pen, let them kind of introduce smallly. But I guarantee you, when they go out with the main herd, somebody's going to get beat up so that they know who's the top of the pecking order.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
So, you know, kind of thinking about, you know, cruelness and pain and things like that. A lot of times folks are looking at some of the videos that we've got on there, and they think about the horse, and then they're relating everything that they know about the horse to the mule. And I think one of the things that folks who love these animals, one of the cruelest things that at least I've learned, and maybe you would describe it differently, but just from me as an outsider watching you work, one of the cruelest things that you can do to a mule or a donkey is treat it like a horse. Is treat it like it is a horse and try to do everything like it's a horse and not respect the unique differences that make this animal so special. And folks who learn, they say, you know what, there really is. I always thought that an equine was an equine, but there is something different about these mules and these donkeys. They look at the world differently. So you talk about pain and cruelness and things like that. Man, the cruelest thing I think I've ever heard of and witnessed is treating them like a horse.
Yeah. You know, even like the halter, you know, people will use a nylon halter or they'll use an incorrectly adjusted halter, and they'll say, you know, my mule is butt. My mule is okay butt. And you know what it usually is? The mule is pulling away from them. They're getting tired of having these knots hitting them on the bone and nerves, and they've had enough, you know. And folks think they're being nice because they'll use a smooth snaffle bit. Well, I've seen more split tongues, and I could go on and on and on.
Right.
Folks, this is a mule. Half donkey, half horse. It's a mule. And they're way different. They think different. They brace different, you know. And it's really unique. Hey, Dave, it just reminds me, I got an email from a lady. I won't give the name, but her dad bought a saddle from me back in 2014.
Okay.
He's now since passed away.
Okay.
But get this. Now, he's got all this tack in this room. She says, my dad has all kinds of saddles and bridles and stuff. And he had this one really nice saddle made. But had told her a couple different times that he really didn't like the saddle, that the mule didn't like the saddle. Well, now her dad passed away. So she's taking this really beautiful saddle. She says, I'm going to take Dad's mule for a ride. She says that mule shook its head, pinned its ears. She said, Steve, and I'll send you the email. We need to see this.
Yeah.
You know, she said, you cannot believe the difference in attitude of this mule. She says, I got to looking around through the saddles, and I've been looking on the internet, and I've seen all this information about you. And Steve, he had one of your saddles. So I thought, I'm going to try it. Dave, it's really cool, she says in there. This mule just got relaxed, ears flopping, and away it went. you
Well,
know.
that's what we hear over and over again, which leads me into the next question. Glenn's
Uh-oh.
watching us from West Virginia. So, Glenn, we are so glad that you're here. Thank you for hanging out with us. He says, I got a mammoth mule. Do you have any saddle ideas? Now, of course, we're not going to get into a whole sales pitch or anything like that. But, Steve, can one of your saddles with your Steve Edwards saddle bars, will that fit a little Welch pony like it will fit a giant, 16 and a half hand high mammoth? Do they fit the same way?
Absolutely. That's what blows people away, folks. It is not the height, size, width, and this sort of thing. It is bone structure. And that's why it makes it so much more different. Now, you can do like this, like I just talked about these people. He had some different saddles made by good quality saddle makers, guys that did a nice job, but they didn't understand the mule. There's a major difference. I had a client call me and was telling me that they had a saddle made in Colorado and said the mule's ears were stiff, they was uncomfortable and stuff, so I thought I'd buy your saddle pad, and see if it made a difference. Now, I put the saddle pad on there, it made a little bit of a difference. Finally, I went ahead and bought your saddle, and he says the mule settled right out. Now, it's fun to have all these stories shared with me every week. Makes me feel like, by golly, I've given a little bit to the equine world.
Yeah, very good. We got a couple more folks over here on YouTube watching. We've got Marty. Marty's been active with us back and forth. We've been conversing back and forth, answering some questions. So, Marty, it's good to have you here watching live. He's from Dubuque, Colorado. He says, sneaking in a hello from Dubuque, Colorado. I'm working. Don't get yourself in trouble there, Marty, but we're glad that you snuck in to say hello. We've got the Journey from Missouri watching. Marty says, can mules see well at night to pack something out? What do you have to say there?
Oh, yeah. Give me a mule any day. Dave, I have been back in the middle of nowhere. Matter of fact, Bobby DeBow and I packed some freight in for some Germans. And when you pack freight in for Germans, you know what it is? Beer. Anyway, we come out and it was dark. It was on a really small trail. My flashlight, my batteries went out. And then we were striking matches every so often to look and see. Finally, I told Bobby, I said, that's it. I climbed on the mule, put the reins down low, and I just kicked him forward and said, go on, find a way. The mule took us all the way to the truck. Yeah. I'm talking pitch black, got back at 1 o'clock in the morning. No problem. Give me a mule any day.
How cool. That's awesome. Dan Davis from San Augustine, Texas said, had 66 degrees this morning, but it warmed up to 86 now with blue skies. So I'll take 86. I'm wondering what that humidity looks like down there in Texas. Hopefully it's a nice day for you. But it does get pretty humid down there the humidity gets big down in Texas. Everything gets big down in Texas. Let's see. We've got Cindy watching. She says, I have a gaited mule with a nice overreach. How do you shoe the gaited mules? What is an overreach? And then how do you shoe them?
Okay, overreach means, here's the front foot. It goes down. And then the back foot actually, by the front foot then leaves. But when you look at the tracks, one is almost on top of the other. It's like this. So it's got that much of a stride. So that means that must be a gaited mule like a Tennessee Walker where they have a lot of stride. What I don't do is I don't put corks on them. In other words, the heels, I don't put the corks in them so that they bite more dirt. I don't put the weights around the legs to make them stride. Now, this is all I do. I shoe them like I shoe any other mule. I've had foxtrotters, I've had Tennessee Walkers, and all this fancy shoeing that I have tried and learned in this sort of thing. You know what? Just give me that good old, just set them balanced, set them right, and away they go. And again, watch the stride. Remember, I was talking about it earlier. Watch them walk away from you. Watch them coming to you. Watch them go around in circles. Watch the stride of the mule. And then go down and look at the dirt. And you can see the shoe. You can see the hoof mark. And you can see what kind of overstride that you have.
Nice. Real quick, just want to say we're here at the top of the hour. Want to welcome anyone who's come in, hanging out with us, whether it's for the first time or for the 50th time. I don't know if we've quite got 50 yet, but I think we're getting close. I think we're on
Good.
41, 42. But if you're hanging out with us, we want to know. Go ahead and say hello in the comment section, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching somewhere else that I don't know how we got there, but you found us. Just make sure you let us know that you're watching. The second thing is go ahead and ask your question. We got some good questions in the queue here. We want to ask your question too. And the third thing, and this is really the most important thing, just to make sure that our show keeps going, is that you share the broadcast. Just click the share button below on Facebook. Tell folks why you love watching, what's great about the show, and then we'll welcome them in to be a part of the community. We really want you to be able to get this out there to the folks in your lives who need it the most. So, Steve, real quick, why don't you go ahead and share what you got behind you there to folks who are just now tuning in, who maybe missed the first 3 minutes of the show?
Here it goes. This is my latest, greatest cowboy saddle.
How about it?
The original saddle that I originally come up with. Now, Dave, we were talking about it earlier. Folks, you wouldn't believe the trees that I made, the way we did skirting, where we shifted the D-rings, all this stuff come into play before we finally had the very first, what we would consider, everything was there. Every I was dotted, every T was crossed. We watched the mules, we rode the saddle, and we come up with the cowboy. And what this is what I'm gonna call I'm looking for you all to help me with a name. Okay, it's a cowboy, but what? I've added rawhide on the back so that when I'm dragging calves to fire, I don't cut into my leather. I put rawhide in the front so when I'm dallying, it don't wear out. I have literally wore the cannels and the front of the horn right off just in a couple years, just in roping, you know. My fenders, I tell you what, these fenders are way different, folks. They're going to be nice and easy to move around, and I put barbed wire trim around it, you know. So it's my new prototype. Now, here's the last thing. I put a wood tree in it, and I covered it in fiberglass, and on top of that, I put ultra hide. So I'm thinking it's going to be one tough tree because it's one tough saddle. So we'll see. I'm going to be putting it to use. It's going to be going up and down mountains. We're going to be dragging calves to fire. I'll be going elk hunting with it. So, hey, we're going to see what's going to happen. But I need you all to help me with the name it. I got to name it something, you know.
So we got another vote for Festus coming from Ruby Adamson. Or let's see, was it Ruby? Yeah, I agree with Jess. Really like Festus, right? Jess, you like Festus? You like Festus, Jess?
Jess is back in the back room right now. Jess, what do you think about Festus? What do you think? Tell us. What's your vote for Festus? What's your vote? Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, he said 3 votes for Festus.
There we go. So, folks, we want to hear what you think about the names. Go ahead and put it in the comment section here. What we're going to do is we're going to take all those names, maybe throw them up on Facebook, narrow them down to a few selections. So we could do, you know, Festus has been thrown out there. We've got the Limited thrown out there. We got a couple other names thrown out there. Go ahead, put what you think we should call it. The Cowboy what? What should we put after there? So the next question we got here, Ruby actually has a question over on Facebook or on YouTube. She says, one of the new Jennies is constantly knocking her water bucket over. Last night, I pulled it out of the stall. Do you have any other ideas to prevent her from knocking that water bucket over and making sure she's got what she needs?
Well, she's doing it because she's kind of bored. She's, you know, it's fun to sit there and paw with them. And it's nice that you got the water down. That's really good. But as you're finding out, it's really tough because she can knock it over. The best thing I always tell people to do is try to have your water with I usually use about I take a plastic drum and I cut it down where it's got about 30 gallons in it. And then I take and I load it with water and then I put a valve on it. Now, if the mule keeps pawing it, then you're going to have to put a set of chains on her to keep her from pawing at it. But that usually what happens. At my place, I've got 30 gallons worth of water in a plastic drum that I've cut, and I put a float on it so that the animals can get down and drink. Always, folks, and this is important, remember you have an equine. Why do you have your feeders up almost chest high? They can't, it's hard for them to digest it like that. Put the feeder down on the ground like they're grazing, and you'll find you'll have a lot happier animal by doing that. And as far as the pawing goes, it's probably doing it by being bored, easy enough to fix, and that is put a set of pawing chains on.
There you go. Let's see here. Yolanda says it's hot in our country. Yolanda, I'll bet it is. Let's see. We got Celeste Daniels watching. We're glad you're here, Celeste. Meg's watching from Chino Valley, Arizona. I just rode my mule for the first time today. Yahoo!
Yahoo!
That's awesome. Glad to hear that. Let's see. Yolanda just sent over a bunch of hearts, says, love that saddle. And you know what? We've got our first customer for that saddle. Scott says, when can I buy that saddle? So we've got our first buyer right there, Steve. So we're going to have to get in touch with Scott as we work out all the last details there, right?
Yeah, it's Scott, as with anything else, I know the tree, I know the saddle and this sort of thing. But with a new tree like this, I'm going to ride on it. I'm going to know what's going on. I want to know how it feels to me. I want to watch my animals. We got about 10 head of mules on the Andrada that are all different sizes, huh, Dave?
Yep. So you mean to tell me you're not just going to throw your name on a saddle and stick it out there and let people buy it?
No, it ain't gonna happen, buddy. It's my name,
that would
Dave.
Be easier.
Well, sure, it would be easier. And it'd be easier for me to just go ahead and not sell saddles and go do something else and have everybody buy all those mule saddles out there. But Dave, I see the end result, and it's frustrating to me. And so I developed the saddle. I love it. It's kind of like knowing you. It's part of my life, a good part. So
thank you, friend. I appreciate that.
You betcha. So we'll see what happens with the saddles, folks. My name's on it, and I ain't going to go out there and start selling it until I know what's going on with this saddle. Yep, same design, same bars, same everything else, but the tree being wood with fiberglass covering. I want to make sure how that's going to go.
Yep.
I want to know for sure.
And that's why folks like following you. That's why folks put their trust in you, and we appreciate it, Steve. Anthony says, I like the new saddle. My birthday's coming up, and I got an idea of what I want. Excellent job, Steve. Celeste says, I love that saddle. Does it come in 17-inch, and how much? Sorry to ask live. I was watching, and the tablet died. Celeste, you will be amongst one of the first to know when we put this thing out there and say, hey, it's done its job, and we're ready to put it out there. You'll find it out. Julie says, hello, Julie from Kansas. What is the secret to keeping the saddle pad from slipping out under the saddle? I do have one of your neoprene bottom pads and just can't keep it in place. Boy, we love these types of questions, Steve, don't we? Why don't you go ahead and tell Julie a little bit about what she can do to keep that saddle pad from slipping?
Okay, Julie, here's the one thing you want to think about. When the saddle is slipping out the back, that means the front cinch is too tight and the back cinch isn't down tight the way it should be. Because what happens is when that front cinch is tightened up, that saddle is cantilevering. And every time it comes up, it's spitting that thing out, So you make sure that front cinch is looser, back cinch is tighter. Now, you're going to have a hard time if you're riding a saddle that has billets on it. In other words, it has leather straps on each side on the back, because that does not evenly distribute the weight of the saddle on the cinches. That's why I put 4 nylon latigos all the way around, so that my front cinch is the loosest, back cinch is the tightest. Now, there's no rhyme or reason, Dave, as to how tight it needs to be or how loose. Every mule is just a little bit more different when it comes down to their stride. So you need to adjust it accordingly. Now, I'm getting ready to rope something. I'm going to tighten them suckers up. I want to nail it down. But I'm just traveling across the mountains and just general riding. You can almost throw your arm underneath that front cinch for me, But everybody's going to be a little bit different. But a lot of them videos I got on YouTube be pretty helpful too, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm putting a link right now. I put it a little bit earlier, but I'm putting it again right now. Video, how to measure Measure for cinches. There we go. I'm putting it right now in the comment section. Y'all go check out that video. Real straightforward, real easy, real short. So it's not brain surgery or rocket science trying to figure this thing out. Although a lot of times it feels like it can be. This really makes it simple for you, and I think y'all will really appreciate being able to check it out. We've got Nadine saying, always good information. Appreciate it. Love the new saddle. Hopefully it will be available by the time my boy is mature. I currently use your Trail Light saddle, and it fits my boy nicely, and we sure do love hearing that, Nadine. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Got a question here on breast collars. This one comes from Kimmer, sent an email in, says, I'm interested in your breast collar for a 14-2 hand, not so wide Paso Fino. She is a large Paso, so very fast, as a gaited horse has. Big shoulder movement. Will yours work, or will it be too big? So the question I got here is not just for Kimmer, but can it work on any size, any type? Is it meant for a specific size, specific type when we're talking about your breast collar there?
You know, when it comes down to my leather breast collar, I basically kind of and my baited too. I've got one size fits all, and the way I've designed it so that it sets on the shoulders correctly. You know, I've owned foxtrotters, I've owned Tennessee walkers, and I've trained lots of other animals and a lot of Pasos as well. Paso Fino has a really unique stride. And but still, the main thing is the majority of the breast collars are designed for inskirt rigged. And so, in other words, they tie hard and fast into the pommel, or they go into rings on each side of the saddle. And so, when they do that, every time their shoulder hits that breast collar, it pulls the saddle forward. My breast collar, the way it moves with the stride of the mule. So it moves until you dally up to pull something, or until you're going up the side of a mountain. In other words, when there's stress on the saddle for going back, that's when the breast collar comes in. The problem is, folks, if you ought to test it, here's what you want to do when you want to test your breast collars. Pull that breast collar out. You should see 1.5 inches. Remember, your saddles can move 1.5 inches. Forward, back, left, and right, and 1.5 inches. So you're breeching 1.5 inches, your breast collar 1.5 inches. That way it keeps the saddle exactly where you are. Flat ground or not, folks, breeching and breast collar is important. So yes, we'll answer long story short, and I do get long-winded on some of this stuff. Yes, the breast collar is going to work great. I love what everybody comments about. It's been great.
That's awesome. I'm putting a link. We did a demo on that breast collar. I put a link in the comment section so y'all can check out that demo and see how it works and get a feel for what Steve's talking about. Let's see. Eileen is hanging out with us. Hey guys, hello from Nebraska. Glad to be with everyone. Eileen, we're glad that you're here. D Witt is watching. Says hi guys. Edie says hello. Ooh, love that saddle. So we've got all of our friends here today, and we are just so grateful that y'all are hanging out. Bucky Stewart's watching over on YouTube, says, keep us informed on the saddles availability. Bucky, you have our word. We will make sure to keep you informed. Next question we got here, and this one's on feed. Feed is something that comes up a lot. Dale, who has been just a fantastic client, fantastic friend, just really been engaging with us a lot. He emailed, said, great video. Unfortunately, Lakin feeds aren't available here in Texas. Martingale feed mill here has a low carbohydrate mule feed, which is pretty close to Lakin Light. May be the best thing I can do until Lakin is available here. So far, my mule looks really good. The hay they are providing where I am boarding him must be pretty high quality. I've allowed a small amount of the pellet feed they provide for horses. I'll send a photo of my mule. Let me know what you think. I know it's hard to see from photos, but he doesn't seem to be getting fat. So the question I've got here, and the reason why I included this is, number one, Lakin's not going to be available for everyone everywhere. So what do they need to be doing when it comes to monitoring the feed? I think you said last week that it's going to be a little bit different for every mule, every donkey. That nutrition program is going to be different. What would you say to someone like Dale who's, got it stalled up at a place, they're feeding, they're handling that sort of thing? Just talk to me a little bit about that, because this is something folks want to know.
You can take the ingredients off of my article and take the ingredients, go down to your feed store. What do I have that looks similar to this? Now remember, I'm in the Southwest. I'm in Arizona, and in California is where we've also fed it too. And I also know they got it in Colorado. I also know they have it in New Mexico as well. But anyway, it comes down to the feed. Look and see what it says. The vitamins and the minerals, the carbohydrate makeup, and the protein. Folks get really worried about the protein. That's not it, folks. This is a mule. So what you have to worry about is carbohydrates. Why is that? Because of the fat pockets along the neck, top of the ribs, top of the tail, all comes from that donkey. And since it all comes from that donkey, guess what? Those carbohydrates, just like us guys, you know, right here, those carbohydrates are going to go there. And you girls know where yours go. Anyway, we won't go into more detail. So end result is this. And Dale and I have already talked. We actually talked this morning. But he says they keep changing feed out and getting new hay, keeping things fresh. Dale, that's not good. It's not. Because here's the problem. What was in that last bunch of hay is not going to be in this hay. Or it's not going to be in the spring hay or in the fall hay. Different parts of the country have different soils and they water different. So when they change feed, that ain't good. No, when I bought feed from my ranch, I bought feed out of one field for a whole year. A whole year. So that way I can feed consistently. Folks, it's super important. Your feeding program keeps your mule, keeps your donkey in the right frame of mind, in the right body structure. It's so important to have the right feeding project. Then I come along with Chuck Lakin and Lakin Light. Chuck was a great guy. Last name was Lakin, and he was even the Merle's Marauders. So he's been a horseman all his life. Since passed away, they've since sold the company. It's a whole nother story. But anyway, you know, Chuck and I we worked together. He was a mule man, and we come up with this feed. And I found it worked good. I had all my mules here, worked good. And then when I did my class at Pierce College in L.A., I went to Paris, California, to Star Milling, and they developed the same feed, and we fed that during my program at Pierce College in L.A. So long story short, yes, it's a great feed. Take the ingredients, go down. All right. Now, basically, Dave, the same feed we're feeding here at the Phoenix Zoo. We've got, probably a lot of people don't realize, we got the largest equine program of any zoo right here in Phoenix. You've seen it, you know what's going on. But the main thing is, folks, if you're really going to do it right, go down and get you a hair sample, get it tested, get a blood test, see where your mule is short on what vitamin.
So what I'm doing right now is the Mules Can't Stand Prosperity article. Right. I'm putting that in the comment section. Is that now? That's a great one on feed. I'm trying to remember that. Is that the one that actually has all of the ingredients as well in that one?
Yes, I talk about it at the very end.
Yes,
we talk about how the mule changed his ideas and stuff, and that's it. And also, when I was talking with the representative from Lakin Milling, we discussed feed at quite lengths in that video.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's a great video. Y'all are going to love it if you haven't gotten it yet. Go check out that. Go check out that article I just put a link to, and you'll see a link to the video, the Feed and Nutrition Program video. Next question we've got here. This one's from Nat. Nat's watching underneath the Journey 13 name over on YouTube. So,
hey, Nat, my granddaughter.
There she is. She says, what kind of workout do you suggest for putting muscle on a young mule?
My favorite thing is mountain climbing, up and down mountains as much as possible. The other thing you can do is put the surcingle on, put your breeching on, put your rope halter on, get the nose on the vertical, get them balanced, top of the hip, top of the wither, top of the head, bounced across. That gets the back end up underneath. That develops the gasket muscle. That develops the hip muscle. and all the muscles along top of the hip, and then it helps the top line. And always remember, you want to feed your mules according to the work. But otherwise, I like going up hills. It's great. Wagons is probably my favorite way to really put a lot of muscle on with wagons.
Sherry's watching from hot Pensacola, Florida, catching y'all on the ride home from work. We are so glad that you're spending a few minutes with us there, Sherry. I want to remind folks that if you miss any of these videos here and you're on the go, we actually have our podcast, which is the audio clip, the audio version of these conversations. Of course, sometimes you want to see, but not all times do you need to see. And so I'm putting a link in the comments there. We've got the podcast. You just go, whether you're watching on, whether you use Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher or wherever you subscribe to podcasts, just click on that link there that I put in the comment section. You can subscribe to our podcast, and it's available. We upload a new episode every Tuesday, and chances are there's a lot of episodes that are already uploaded that you haven't heard yet, and they're all real good. They're all a lot of fun. We enjoy these. Debbie sent us an email and says, I live outside of Phoenix, 110 degrees. Debbie, we know it. That sun is just following us around, trying to kill us. The donkey, BLM, is taking forever to shed, and I see dandruff on the slick hair. He gets Bermuda grass hay, just a couple handfuls of Lake and Light pellets this morning and night, in the morning and the night, just so he doesn't feel slighted because his Mustang brother gets a pound in the morning and a pound at night. I have a supplement that you use for horses that are just done grass hay or pasture, and he gets half an ounce a day, which is the lowest dose that they recommend. I'm afraid of overfeeding him. Yes, he doesn't get any exercise except when he's out walking around with the Mustang. He's such an easy keeper. I feel like I'm not getting enough, but I hear that's a common problem. I can't really get a hold of any other hay. It's Bermuda grass, alfalfa, or perhaps rye. He won't eat any wheat straw, which is the only type of straw I can easily get. Money is tight. Suggestions I can't see above to see if type dictation correctly, so I hope it made sense. What do you say there?
Well, the Bermuda hay is absolutely the best way to feed. It's going to be good for him. And your donkey, you're right. You got to be careful overfeeding that donkey. Really easy to get them grass foundered and this sort of thing. Now, she said it looks like he's having a hard time getting rid of the long hair, the winter hair, and he's a little dandruffy, so the skin's a little dry. So a couple thoughts that I usually do, Dave, is I'll take some whole oats and I'll put some vegetable oil in it, and I'll sprinkle it around. And that really, before we would show and this sort of thing, we started giving that a couple months ahead of time, and it slicked them up really nice. That vegetable oil really worked good. So, but as far as the long hair goes, I've had some mules and seen some donkeys that they go all summer long with long hair, and finally, just when fall is starting to present itself, they finally get rid of it. Who knows why? But they do. It's not a big deal, but use a little bit of vegetable oil in with some oats and whole oats. Not rolled oats, not crimped oats, whole oats, and maybe like I don't know, 2 or 3 tablespoons of it, and then the whole oats, and then give that a try.
Yep, very good. Carol sent in an email, says, I have a donkey that I've had since 7 months. I think she means since the donkey's been 7 months, not since he's been 7 months. Okay. He's now 17. He is very bloated in the belly, and the top line is thin. I have been working with him and no signs of colic. Any ideas?
It's called donkey. It's just what they do.
That's a lifelong condition, ain't it?
It is. And a lot of mules will kind of get that too. They quote, look bloated. It's called way too much grass. Okay. It's like guys that drink too much beer. Where does it go? Right here in the belly, right there. It's where it goes. And so it's way too much grass feed, and some donkeys are they can almost suck air and get fat. Make sure that donkey is in a stall by itself. Make sure the teeth are floated, really important. And then you may even have to feed like 3 times a day, small increments, but exercise is extremely important.
There we go. So just good old-fashioned advice, exercise, and monitor what's being eaten. Can't really go wrong with that. Let's see here. Next question we've got. This one is about cinches. Do I need 2 cinches when I order one of your saddles, Steve? Also, does the little connector that connects them come with it? And how do I know the size of the cinches? So this one's from Lynn. Of course, I put a link in the comment section, and I'm sending a message to Lynn too with the video, how to measure. But do I need to have 2? And then what's that little connector? Do I need to have one of those as well? Does it come with cinches?
When people order my saddle and the cinches, I do give them what is called a hobble strap. And it's about this long, and it connects from front cinch to back cinch, and there's a D-ring on each one of them so that they can adjust accordingly. Now, how far apart it needs to be is going to kind of depend upon the back, how wide the back is. So I actually like to have around pretty much 4 inches on the majority of my mules, unless they're really short back, that I may want to get down to like 3, maybe even 2.5, but between the two. And then how to measure, that videotape is going to help out a lot. But basically, usually I have folks tell me, all right, now my mule is 14.2, weighs about 900 pounds, all right? I'm going to put a 28 to a 30-inch cinch on the front, and I'm going to put a 34-inch cinch on the back. Now, if it's like the little mule that I ride a lot down at the Andrada, he's a little tank. I actually have to put a 40-inch cinch on the back of him because he has that donkey belly, you know. People say, well, when's that mule going to have a baby? Well, if he does, then we've got a problem because he shouldn't be having babies. Notice the word he, you know. Yeah. So he's just fat. It's just the way he is. And, of course, he don't get ridden a bunch until I come down there. But that's what you're going to have to do. And then when you do that video, that'll help people out a lot, you know.
Yeah, very good. Let's see here. Gary from Tularosa checking in. Gary, we're glad that you're here hanging out. It's always good to hear from you, Gary. Let's see here. Last question. Actually, that was my last question. Steve, we got through everything today. How about that?
Oh, my golly, how about that? What I want to know is, I was told that it was hot in the Netherlands, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how hot is hot to a Netherlands person?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So there she is. We'll just have to see what kind of comeback we get with her, you know.
If I know Yolanda, she is going to have a comeback.
Yolanda will have a comeback. That lady is outspoken, I guarantee you, you know. She's willing to tell you exactly the way things go. But folks, look, we want to help you with your mules. We want to help you with your donkeys. We really do. You got questions, please, you know. I don't care if I have to tell you 100 times how to move something, that's okay. I can't tell you how many times old Nick or DeLoss would have to tell me over and over again. They're in Canada, I'm in Arizona. Of course, now they're home with the Lord, but that's a different story. So I want to help you. The knowledge that I have here, folks, was given to me by the grace of God. No other way, by His grace. And I had good men in my life and women that kind of guided me along as they went, you know. So there's that part. And guess what, Dave?
What's that?
August 3rd is coming up.
August 3rd, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to hit 70 years old August 3rd. 70. Now, only my dad was 70 years old. I couldn't possibly, I got to be about 42.
There's no way you could be 70 years old like your dad was. No way.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. I'm kind of amazed to think 70 years. That seemed like it was old back then, but now it don't sound very old.
It don't sound very old, especially when you're out there fighting fires.
Yeah. I'm there's me and one other guy. He's 72 and I'm 70.
Yeah.
And these other guys, well, like one guy told me, they was the firefighters from State Land. They said, "Hey, young fella, let me give you a hand with that." You know,
you're the young fella.
You know? Yeah, and I said, "Well, thank you very much. You feel pretty good." You know? but I really want to help. You know, whatever it takes, folks. I'm going to do it. And you know, ask the questions. We've got free information out there. I love this guy, Dave. You know, this kid, like I said, is like better than a son. As soon as we say something, he's got a link to it with the information. And that's awesome. I never heard of some of this Canterbury and Jazzberry or whatever these things that he knows, but he knows how to get the information to you. Folks, it's free. Come and get it, you know, please.
It is all free. We're putting it all up there. We can't keep up with how much information we're getting based upon the questions folks are sending us and just the things based upon the conversations you're having. Folks, what will happen, it just kind of give you a little bit of behind the scenes here. What will happen is Steve's on the phone almost all day, every day. He's got folks calling, leaving voicemails, and he gets back to you. So you can call him, 602-999-6853. Call him at any time you want. The phone number to his direct cell phone is on the website. So go check that out. But Steve gets these calls all day long. Calls folks back, and then he'll send me a message or a text message or an email, or he'll call me and say, hey, Dave, the thing that I want to start talking about is this. And so I'll say, okay, we'll get the team on it. And I've got a team of like 5 people, 4 of them here in the office, and we got some people across the United States. And all of us get to work making it happen. We publish articles, and we get questions added for the next live stream, and then we get videos uploaded. And we've got a whole operation here, and it's all free online. We're publishing as much. We're trying to, as fast as we can put it out, we're putting it out there. So you go to muleranch.com. Chances are you're going to find what it is you're looking for. And even still, if you want further clarification or if you can't find what you're looking for, send us a message and we'll get it here on the live stream. Steve, all the years we've known each other, I think I should have known this by now that your birthday is so close to mine. My birthday's July 31st. Your birthday's August 3rd. It's right there.
My mother's birthday was July 31st.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm going to have to commit that to memory now. But our birthdays are coming up there. We're going to have to, I'm going to be 37.
37.
37.
Wow.
The court feels like after 30, I can't remember what age I am.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I told somebody, I think I was 29, and Sandra and I were hanging out with some friends. Sandra's my wife. We were hanging out with some friends. So this was, 8 years ago. And someone said, so how old are you? And I said, I'm 26. And she looked at me. What did you say? I said, I'm 26. She goes, you're 29. I was like, oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Well, my granddaughter, she was, hers is July 20th.
Yeah.
Now. And I had sent her some stuff ahead of time because my memory isn't always good. Anyway, yesterday I remembered it was on the 20th. And I texted her and I said, oh, Nat, I think I forgot about your birthday. She said, no, Grandpa, you remembered. You put me a card in my box and stuff. But she says, I don't feel any older. I just feel the same, Yeah. She's 16 now. I thought she was 12. Oh, man. I blew it big time. She's 16.
Oh, my goodness. That sure is fun. Well, folks, thank you for hanging out with us another week. We sure do appreciate it. When you see our stuff pass through your Facebook feed, go ahead and like it. Leave a comment. It sure does just feel good to know that we've got a community of folks out there. I love seeing everyone start to interact with one another. I think that's great. So when you see our stuff, just go ahead and like it. Let us know that what's going on in your world. We would love to hear that. When you see a video up on YouTube, go ahead and like it, share it, make sure you watch it, and let us know where we can help you out in your neck of the woods. We sure would love to hear it. Steve, thank you so much for taking another hour. We sure do appreciate it. And keep us in the loop on what's going on with that saddle there. We'll end it like this. Tell folks what we're looking at here before we say goodbye.
Yep, this is the Cowboy Saddle. And the original Cowboy Saddle was done back in the 80s, somewhere like that. And I did the rawhide cantle. I did the rawhide on the horn. And I did all this stuff because of doing a lot of leading pack animals, because rawhide's tougher than leather. And I did a lot of roping and stuff like that. Well, as I started selling these saddles, well, the cost of rawhiding and this sort of thing is pretty expensive. So I got to where I didn't put it on my saddles, but I need a name for this saddle. So we're going to shoot pictures of it. Yep. We're going to have a little video. I don't know, Dave, you're the craftsman at that. But, I put lots of different things right here on this horn.
Yeah.
This right here is mule hide, it's called.
How about
And
that?
I used it before it's pretty tough. I usually like to have inner tube
Yeah.
on here to belly up, but it has my conchos, and I put barbed wire trim on it, and my fenders are really unique. Really unique.
I like that.
Yeah, it's there. As you get back problems and this sort of thing,
Yeah.
and knee problems, these are the culprits right here, the fenders.
Yes.
So that's what I like about that Cordura. Shoot, you got a back problem or a knee problem, the Cordura did good. So I redesigned the fenders and did some work to them, and I did a lot of movement. Anyway, we're going to see this on the website, but I want a name for this saddle. Cowboy something, or just call it, I don't know if I can even use the word Festus, because that's got to be
copyright
it's got to
thing.
be a name, copyright thing, But we can
We'll
come up with something
good.
sure.
We've got a lot of good folks in the community, and I know they're going to help us.
Yeah, I could even call it Jess. I could call it Jesse.
That's true.
What do you think about that name? Jess, what do you think about that name? You don't like it.
I think that's the quietest I've ever heard Jess be.
Yeah, I mean, he really liked Festus.
He did. He was going on
He's
pretty
here
good.
right now,
Well,
and,
folks, be sure, send us a message, support@muleranch.com. Give Steve a text, 602-999-6853. And let's come up with a great name so that when this thing is Steve Edwards certified, we're ready to throw it up there on the store, and y'all can go ahead and get it and let us know how we did. So, Steve, thanks so much. Jess, it's always good to see you too. Thank you for lending your. Yep, there you go. Thank you for your contributions too, Jess. Folks, we will see you next week. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless, and make it a good one. Bye-bye, everyone.
Blessings. Yep.